Hi YouTube, and welcome back to Science with Sully. If you enjoyed the video that you're about to watch, be sure to give it a like, and if you look forward to more content from Science with Sully, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. Today I'll be going over something that is pretty simple, but also very necessary to know when furthering your knowledge of biology, and that is the level or the organization of life. And these come in various levels, right? So they go from most simple to the most complex. And we're going to go through those and try to give some examples of each. So let's start with the most simple, the atom. The atom is the smallest unit of matter. And if it's the smallest, you can infer that it's the simplest. Next, we have when atoms come together, they create molecules. And these molecules could be, say, carbon dioxide or oxygen gas. And oxygen gas would just be two oxygen atoms coming together. Next, we would have a branch of molecules that are a little bit more complex, would be our macromolecules. And this is where we start to really see some complexity enter the picture. Our macromolecules would be proteins, our lipids, and when I say protein, of course, I mean our amino acids, and our carbohydrates. And last but not least, our nucleic acids. And that's when you really start to see things kind of take shape. So we're moving on to our next stop on the organization of life. And we're really going to break this down. So when those macromolecules like lipids and proteins and nucleic acids come together, we have what are called organelles. And of course, our organelles, just a couple of examples would be like our nucleus or our ER, or perhaps a ribosome, just to name a few. And when you put all of these organelles together, our next stop will take us to the cell. Move that a little bit closer. And the cell is the combination of those organelles, and there are, of course, different types of cells. We've got a neuron, for example, which would be a brain or a spinal cord cell. We've got epithelial cells, which there are tons of epithelial cells, but one example would be like a skin cell. And we have another type of cell we'll just name, would be like a nephron, and that's a kidney cell. So there are different types of cells, of course, that make up this step in our organization map. So let's keep moving on to the next one. When those cells come together, say a bunch of neurons come together, they are going to create a tissue. And that's just the combination of epithelial cells or neuron cells. And so in tissue, we've got, of course, different types. We've got nervous tissue, which would be like our brain matter or spinal cord tissue. We've got skin tissue, of course, like our dermis. And we've got, let's say, we've got tissue in our small intestine. So all kinds of different tissues with these specialized cells come together and kind of work together. And so when those tissues really start to work together, they are going to create our next stop, which is an organ. Actually, let's keep the multicolors going. And this is where really the complexity starts to get ramped up. We, of course, know a lot of organs. We have our heart and our lungs. And just to throw another one out there, we have our liver. And our heart is made up of, oh, that's a good tissue to put, cardiac tissue, cardiac muscle tissue, I should say, as our lungs are made of a type of epithelial tissue, which is an epithelial cell made up of a bunch of epithelial cells. And our liver is also made up of specialized liver cells. So when we go from the organ, there's kind of a stop that applies to some, but not all organs. And that would be the stop of the organ system. So an organ system would be such that the nervous system involves both the spinal cord and the brain. So that's two organs that make that nervous system. Or the respiratory system, which involves not only your two lungs, but also your diaphragm. Without your diaphragm, you don't breathe either. So that's a muscle that's involved, a muscle, which is an organ, which is made of muscle tissue, which is made of muscle cells, that regulates your respiratory system. And one more we can write is our cardiovascular system. And it's the combination of your cardio system and which is your heart, and your vasculature, which would be your veins. So when you put all of those organ systems together, and I didn't name them all, but when you do put them all together, we make our final stop in our journey on the organization of life, and that is an organism. And of course, organisms, example, humans, which is what I am and whoever's watching this. But of course, other organisms too, like fish or um, a fish, a jaguar, your dog. Really, anything that when you look outside and, oh, there's a bird, that's also made up of these same steps. So this, again, is called the organization of life. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it was informative to you. I know it looks like a lot, but when you break it down, it really isn't too bad. If you enjoyed the video, be sure you give it a like, and if you look forward to more content to come from Science with Sully, be sure you follow the channel and subscribe. Thank you for watching.